If you want a copy of my book, The Speculator's Mosaic, you can find that on Amazon. I hope that you enjoy our videos, and please press like. It'll help us a lot. As far as the conversation with Coachman, one of the big issues was wage and price controls. And what they said was, among other things, is for the first time in that year, which would have been early 1975, they were allowed by the government to raise prices sufficient to cover their increasing costs. So they no longer were squeezed in terms of from government bureaucracy. And that, of course, was what had been one of the big reasons why so many of the stocks in the RV industry were down in the previous couple of years. A second area of conversation was very important, that we had energy price controls. And like one reason that the stocks had gone down so much is that, it used to be like in 1970 or something, before the energy issue, let's say grandmother is saying, I'd like to spend some time with the grandkids. What are you thinking? And her husband says, well, what about I get a travel trailer or a big one, and we'll take the couple grandkids. There's enough for them to stay, so on and so forth. Great, says the grandmother. But once you had energy prices go up and you had shortages because of wage and price controls, when the grandfather is saying, hey, what if I buy an RV? We could go and so on and so forth. She said, dear, we go to the next town 50 miles down the road. How do we know if we're going to be able to fill up with gas? You got to be crazy to buy an RV and with this energy situation and the price controls and shortages. They used to have lines of people trying to wait to buy gasoline. What happened was, I believe it was 1971, where there was enough production. So for the first time in the United States, domestic production, the demand was greater. And so up until that time, some bureaucracy in Texas controlled the price of oil in the United States. Well, once they had to start importing significant amounts, which happened about that time, the people in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and so on and so forth, said, now we are getting control of the price of oil. And so this was the start of OPEC, which is still around, right? And the price of oil went, be interesting to go back, but my guess was that it might have been 50 cents a barrel. And all of a sudden it goes to $2 a barrel, $5 a barrel, dramatic, big increases. And there was nothing the United States could do because they didn't produce enough themselves within the country to handle all the demand. And that, as I'm saying, was a big issue for companies like recreational vehicle that depended on easy access to gasoline. So all of those things, as I said, caused with my new tactic, a real opportunity. The stock, as I said, went from 5 to 25 in a year and made me about $500,000. So it was enough for me to go on my own, which I did. Well, being a gambler, if you like a stock and you want to say, okay, how do I make the maximum amount of money out of this? Let's say you've got $10,000. With almost every broker, you can say, look, I don't want to buy $10,000 worth of Coachman. I want to buy $15,000 and borrow $5,000 from you. And the brokers are happy to do that for two reasons. One, they can charge you for, loaning you the $5,000. And second, the commissions are greater on doing the trades because we're talking about, buying $15,000 rather than buying 10. And it's very common, still around, very much so. And so that's called, in the financial sector, that's called margin. And that's what I did. I tend to do it. I do it to this day as a way of enhancing my return.